No filters, no management excuses, just the raw, uncut truth from the heart of oil country. You're listening to Loyal to the Oil, podcast for fans who bleed blue and orange. Let's drop the puck. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Loyal to the Oil. I'm your host, Justin Holoff, and here's what we're discussing today. Now, if you're looking for corporate PR talk, management excuses, or toxic positivity, I'm afraid you've clicked on the wrong link. We're jumping straight into the absolute fire today. So as I'm writing this, today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026, and the hockey world just fractured right down the middle. The Edmonton Oilers have officially named Mike Babcock as our new head coach. Yes, that Babcock. And let me be unequivocally, devastatingly clear right out of the gate. This is a massive mistake. I'm strongly, passionately against his hiring. While management is busy polishing up a resume that hasn't been relevant since Obama's first term, I'm looking at the reality. This is a desperate, regressive, panic button move that threatens the culture of our locker room and risks completely wasting the final years of the Connor McDavid era. So today we're pulling back the curtain on the introductory press conference. We're analyzing what the players allegedly said behind closed doors, and we're breaking down the brutal math of firing a coach who took us to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals just to hire a guy whose name has been synonymous with controversy, privacy violations, and playoff stagnation for a decade. Grab your coffee or your whiskey because oil country, we need to talk. Okay, so first things first, let's start with what just happened hours ago at the podium. So, our beloved general manager, Stan Bowman, being the great general manager he is, am I right? He stood up there and told us that after firing Kris Knoblauch in mid-May after a disappointing first-round exit against the Anaheim Ducks, they needed a new voice with strong pedigree and experience. And I mean, sure, yeah, we're trying to win now while McDavid's still in the picture, but they considered Mike Babcock of all names. So he took the mic, and if you listened closely, the old school rigid taskmaster was trying desperately to sound like a changed man. Like I watched / listened to this guy's introductory press conference, and like my opinion on him, like before the presser, has not changed one bit. It remains the same, honestly. I'm not convinced he's a changed man or whatever you want to call it. But anywho, so he told the media, and I quote, "Anytime you make anybody feel uncomfortable in your life, you should take a look at yourself. You try to always be better." Even threw his adult kids under the bus, saying they have opinions on his tone and how to be respectful. But then, the real Babcock, who we all know, leaked out. He admitted, "I actually don't think my intentions are wrong that often. I think sometimes my tone is for sure." You kidding me? Your tone? Babcock trying to rebrand his past behavior as a tonal issue is the definition of gaslighting a fan base. We're talking about a guy who hasn't coached an active NHL game in over 6 years because his methods didn't just make people uncomfortable. They broke people, made them question if playing hockey was something they wanted to pursue further, had negative effects on their mental health or whatever. So why don't we take a trip down memory lane and see what this management group is bringing into a locker room that's supposed to be contending for a Stanley Cup in the immediate future. So let's start things off during his decade with the Detroit Red Wings back in the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. So there was Johan Franzen. He openly stated that Babcock is the worst person he's ever met, testifying to severe verbal abuse and mental breakdowns he suffered under him in Detroit. I think it got like so bad one time that the captain of the Red Wings at the time, Nick Lidstrom, had to like intervene on his behalf, tell him to back off, just stop, leave him be, that sort of thing. And not so much like mistreatment. I guess you could call it that too, because there were two instances where he just did not care about games of personal significance to the veteran players. Like notably, he benched, or I should say, well, yeah, he benched Chris Chelios for the 2009 Winter Classic at Wrigley Field in his hometown of Chicago. Like I think he let him play like one shift, and then he sat him the rest of the game. And before you say like, oh, you know what, he'll play in Chicago again. This is a game being played at Wrigley Field, something that's never been done before. A baseball stadium outdoor game in the winter weather. And then, of course, let's not forget when he scratched Mike Modano before he could have played his 1500th career NHL game. Retired just one short with 1,499 games. But I mean, like, you can argue that like they were still in a tight playoff race at that time, and like he brought him on board to like help them win the Stanley Cup. He says not to play them 1,500 career games, but like even at that, like have some respect for like the legend that helped popularize hockey in the state of Texas. Like he was mainly known for playing for the Stars his almost like 23 season career or something like that. I know he played like at least 20 seasons, mostly with the North Stars, Dallas Stars franchise, but wrapped up his career with a pit stop in Detroit, which is fitting because he's from Michigan, right? And mhm. and now let's like shift things over to his absolute great tenure with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So his second year with them, when Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, and them were rookies, yeah, he forced Marner to rank his own teammates based on their work ethic, like from the hardest working to laziest or something like that. And I think like he assured him it was going to remain private, but then he went ahead and just shared it with everything. And I think some of the veteran leadership group had to like march into Babcock's office one day on Marner's behalf and confront him about it. Forget who it was. I think it was like Tyler Bozak and Nazem Kadri. I'm not 100% sure. I got some buddies who are Leafs fans, so maybe I can talk to them about it. But that's like psychological warfare against a young man who has established himself nowadays as like one of the more premier players in the league. And yeah, and then of course back to just having no regard for veterans with games of significance. He scratched Jason Spezza for the season opener um, against the Ottawa Senators, where he played his like first 12 years and captained his final season. His friends and family, including his sick father, were in attendance, and I'm sure even Babcock knew about it, but was just like, "Yeah, sorry, just you're old. We're gonna sit you," that kind of thing. And then, oh yeah, how about the Daniel Winnick testimony? Just last week, he called Babcock the only guy that's ever made me hate hockey. You see, like another prime example of like people just losing their love for the game because of him. But yeah. Now before we shift gears further, we got to talk about the Columbus disaster. Like, if you think he changed, yeah, look at his controversy surrounding his like brief tenure in Columbus before he even had a chance to coach a game behind the bench. Um, yeah, didn't even make it to training camp, and yeah, he was he was forcing players into isolated rooms to look through their private photo galleries on their phones. But he claims he was just doing it to see like what kind of person they are. I mean, surely you don't have to look through someone's phone to do that. Like, just simply like having a conversation with someone and just like getting to know them. That's like in my opinion a way better. I think in anyone's opinion really a way better way to see what kind of person someone is. No need to go through their private stuff, right? And despite all that, Stan Bowman walked out of his first meeting with the guy very impressed. It makes you sick. Like, okay, I get it. The NHL cleared him last week after a review, saying there's like no basis to restrict his employment. But just because the league says you're legally allowed to hold a whistle doesn't mean you belong anywhere near a championship corps. Now, let's address the massive elephant in the room. The narrative being pushed by management in certain media sectors right now that the leadership group of the Oilers, so we're thinking McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, they signed off on this, and let's just see what they had to say. Yeah, so in the press conference, yeah, he bragged about driving out to meet with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman. He claimed it changed everything, and he told them, unless you are 100% all in on Mike Babcock, then I don't want to be the coach. He looked at the cameras and basically declared he has their full backing. But let's read between the lines of what is allegedly happening here. Do we honestly believe Connor McDavid sat down and said, yes, please bring me the guy who makes players hate hockey? No. Rumors and logic tell a very different story. McDavid has 2 years left on his contract. This season will be the first of, the new 2-year extension he signed last year. And I like McDavid. He's an incredible player. Uh, he's without a doubt been my favorite Oilers player for the past 11 or so years he's been on the team. I even liked him going back to his junior days with the Erie Otters, but he's kind of carried this franchise on his back for however long, more than a decade. And when management fires Knoblauch, panics after the Vegas Golden Knights blocks them from interviewing Bruce Cassidy, and dumps Babcock on his lap, what is McDavid supposed to do? Demand a trade on the spot? Allegedly, the player leadership group essentially had to cross-examine and grill Babcock just to ensure he wouldn't turn Rogers' Place into a toxic corporate surveillance state. When McDavid says he's on board, it's professional athletes speak for. It's not my job to hire the coach. I will play my heart out for whoever is behind the bench because I want a Stanley Cup. It's professional for the athlete to speak in such a way. But using the compliance of your superstars to legitimize a high-risk culture hire is spineless management. If Babcock walks into that room and tries his old school fear-based tactics on McDavid, Draisaitl, or the younger guys on this roster, I don't think it's going to rally them. It'll alienate them, if anything. If this backfires, you aren't just losing hockey games. You risk sending number 97 straight out of town when his contract expires. If not sooner than that. That's probably the main thing that's keeping me, or any die-hard Oilers fan for that matter, up at night, is just the idea of McDavid moving on from the Oilers. Let's just move away from the locker room dynamics for a second and talk purely about the ice. Management wants us to believe that this is a tactical upgrade. They fired Knoblauch on May 14th because the team lost a frustrating first-round series in 6 games to the Anaheim Ducks. And yes, it was disappointing for sure. That was the first time the Ducks had made the playoffs in 8 years after going through a rebuild. And a disappointing end to a messy season where just the defense collapsed, the goaltending was non-existent, and yeah, just after losing back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, it's just disappointing to have our earliest playoff exit in 5 years. For sure. But let's look at what Knoblauch actually did here compared to what Babcock brings to the table. So let's pull up the numbers here, shall we? So if we're talking regular season success here, in his 3 seasons, Knoblauch went 135, 77, and 21. That's a .579 win percentage. Babcock's career regular season win percentage currently sits at .538. And not to mention, like, Knoblauch was kind of brand new to head coaching when he took over as the interim, when we fired Jay Woodcroft after the slow start to the 2023-24 season. Babcock, he's like, I remember his earliest head coaching tenure in the NHL was back in the early 2000s with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. So, like, he's a veteran for sure. Knoblauch, he was kind of a newbie when he took over. And now, let's look at the postseason now. Knoblauch, like, you could argue that, yeah, he just inherited a good Oilers team. But no, he fixed a broken one and dragged them to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals with, like, probably the most mediocre at best goaltending, mid defense, and essentially McDavid and Draisaitl, like, kind of carrying us on our backs. And 31 playoff games won in 3 years with a .585 playoff win rate. And now let's shift things over to Babcock. He has 700 wins. He won a cup in 2008, won gold at the Olympics with Team Canada. But let's look at, like, that core that the Red Wings had in the late 2000s at that time. So, Nick Lidstrom, despite being in his late 30s, he was still, like, he won a Norris Trophy at sorry about that. He won a Norris Trophy at 41. But there were, like, other elite players on that team too. Henrik Zetterberg, Pavel Datsyuk, Johan Franzen, as I already mentioned earlier, Brian Rafalski. Like, that was just an absolute stacked team. And, like, the fact that they only won one cup under Babcock, like, strongly suggests that they underperformed. And surely, I think any coach could have took them to a Stanley Cup victory. I mean, even a golden retriever behind the bench could have coached them to a ring, for all we know. But what has he done lately, though? Like, since 2013, he has 0 playoff series wins. 0. Like, he's consistently failed to get an incredibly talented Maple Leafs core past the first round. Like, he routinely just got out-adjusted and out-coached by modern progressive minds. Like, when you got a young roster on the rise with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, those guys, like, surely you should be able to get past the first round, no problem, right? Well, I guess not with Babcock. It wasn't until, like, a few years after they got rid of him that they finally won a playoff series. But, yeah. But, and, like, back to the Red Wings, too. Like, even after they won the Cup and made it to another final, they just barely lost to the Penguins. Like, after that, it just began a trend of earlier playoff exits and whatnot. So, like, he may have been a good fit at the beginning, but just after that, no. But, yeah, we just fired a guy who knows exactly how to win in the modern, fast-paced, high-skill salary cap era. And, just because of one bad round against the Anaheim Ducks, who are returning to playoff contention for the first time in nearly a decade. And this is how we go from here. We replace him with a coach who relies on a rigid, heavy dump and chase checking system. Like, that's going to work. And Edmonton's entire identity is built on transitional speed, elite power play, creativity, and allowing generational talents to use their hockey IQ. Babcock's historical system actively stifles creative superstars. And to, like, help him implement this outdated structure, they brought in associate coach DJ Smith, who was an assistant under Babcock in Toronto. They're literally assembling the old guard to try and police a modern Ferrari of an offense. It's a massive mismatch. And this brings us to the final, most frustrating question. Why? Why now? Like, Oilers are squarely in a win now window. We don't have 3 years for a coach to have a learning experience or work on his tone. We have 2 years left of McDavid under contract. This season is everything. And actually, can I add 2 years left if we're lucky? I wouldn't be surprised if, either we another early playoff exit or just missing altogether. He wants out. But honestly, if management wanted an experienced, hard-nosed winner, there were highly capable, progressive coaches with recent track records available on the market. But instead, because the Vegas Golden Knights blocked our attempt to interview Bruce Cassidy, the front office just absolutely panicked. They fell back on a name brand. They brought the narrative that a polarizing taskmaster is what this team needs to get over the hump. It's an insult to fans and a massive gamble with the franchise's future when we're trying to win a Stanley Cup with McDavid still in the picture. But if Babcock comes in and the team starts sliding, the media circus is going to be unbearable. Every single awkward interaction on the bench, every scratch of a young player, every stony silence from McDavid in a post-game presser is going to be dissected under a microscope. Management has willingly invited a massive toxic distraction into our house when we needed stability the most. And that is going to do it for the very first episode of Loyal to the Oil. I wish I could have come on here to celebrate a brilliant new era, but I have to tell it like it is, unfortunately. Hiring Mike Babcock is an archaic solution to a modern problem. It gambles with the locker room chemistry, it ignores a decade of playoff failures, and it spits in the face of what Kris Knoblauch actually built over here over the last 3 seasons. I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope he does hoist the cup next year. But the history, numbers, and Babcock's own words today just tell me otherwise. But enough from me. I want to hear from you, Oil Country. Are you buying Babcock's changed man routine from the press conference today? Do you think McDavid and the leadership group genuinely wanted this, or were they cornered by Bowman? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button and leave a review. We're going to be covering this circus all season long, tracking every single line change, tactical adjustment, and post-game comment. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in to episode 1. Stay loud, stay passionate, and above all, stay loyal to the oil, and I'll see you next time. This has been Loyal to the Oil. I'm your host, Justin Holloway. Take care, everyone.